The Republican National Committee voted Friday to censure the two Republicans currently serving on the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol riot. The RNC chairwoman says Representatives Liz Cheney of Wyoming and Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, quote, crossed a line by investigating the Capitol insurrection. The move happened during the party's winter meeting in Salt Lake City. The committee also discussed other party business at the meeting and started making plans for the 2024 presidential election. CBS News political reporter Adam Brewster is at the conference in Salt Lake City and joins me now for more. Hey there, Adam. It's good to see you. So tell us, what does this censure vote mean for the representatives, and how did other Republicans respond when it was brought up for a vote?
So in terms of what it means, the censure itself is a bit symbolic. It's a way for the Republican Party to say, we do not agree with the actions that Representatives Cheney and Kinzinger have taken with respect to their participation on the January 6th committee. They feel that they went against leadership when Kevin McCarthy pulled his recommendations after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said that she wouldn't seat a couple of his suggested members. And they feel that this has become something that the Democrats have turned into a partisan exercise, and that these two members are giving the Democrats all sorts of ammo. So they feel that they have betrayed the Republican Party in a sense. Now, they also said that they would not give these candidates resources in the future. Adam Kinzinger is not running for re-election. Liz Cheney is facing a primary from a Trump-backed challenger in Wyoming. But this was also something that was kind of watered down as the week went along. There was an initial draft that would have asked the House Republicans to, remove the two members from the House Republican Conference. That wouldn't have necessarily forced House Republicans to do anything, but would have, possibly pushed them in a direction. We'll see if, House Republicans, certainly some of the more vocal critics of Cheney and Kinzinger speak up over the next couple of weeks now that this censure has happened. But, not committing resources to Liz Cheney during her reelection is certainly part of it. And, within Wyoming, there was another step to potentially give resources to her primary challenger.
And just to be clear for our viewers, that is separate from the censure vote that was the Wyoming RNC members signing a letter that allowed the committee to get involved in Cheney's primary race later this year. Tell us what it actually means for her chances at re-election, and tell us also just how she and Representative Kinzinger responded to the censure vote.
Right. So that Wyoming GOP letter that was signed, every state has 3 members at the RNC. They have their state party chair and then 2 elected Republican National Committee members. All of them signed this letter. It's done sometimes in open primaries that allows the RNC to commit resources to a primary candidate. In this case, they would be able to do it to back Harriet Hageman, who is the Trump-endorsed challenger to Liz Cheney. And Liz Cheney has a significant cash advantage over Harriet Hageman. She has more than $4 million in the bank compared to Harriet Hageman's about $400,000 in her campaign committee. Now, Cheney and Kinzinger have kind of brushed this aside, right, and said, we're going to continue to do our work. And, Congresswoman Cheney said that this committee is being, held hostage, in her words, by a former president who tried to overturn election results and has said that he would pardon some of the people involved in January 6th. And Adam Kinzinger has said, I'm going to keep doing the work that I was brought here to do. I know you also asked about the reaction in the room. This passed by voice vote. It was a lot of ayes who voted for it and just a handful of people who voted nay against this resolution and others that were up at the time.
Adam, the chairwoman of the RNC, Ronna McDaniel, is also catching a lot of criticism for referring to January 6th as, quote, legitimate political discourse. Give us context around this statement. And is this how the Republican National Committee feels about the events of January 6th?
It certainly was a different mood at this year's Republican National Committee winter meetings. I was there last year in Amelia Island, Florida, when the meetings were held on January 6th, 7th, and 8th. And the mood there was a little bit somber, right? It was just days after Republicans lost the Senate races in Georgia. It was, days after the January 6th attack at the Capitol. Folks were a little more somber. Certainly there were some people who were, some of the more pro-Trump crowd who was ready to move on. But many people were quieter and sort of walking around and figuring out what was going to happen with the party moving forward. Now, move forward a year, and many of them believe that, certainly with respect to the January 6th committee, that it has gone past its scope, that they are issuing subpoenas and trying to talk to people who were not involved in anything January 6th related, who don't have information, and they say that these folks are being harassed. Now, there have been more than 700 people charged with crimes by the Justice Department for their involvement in the January 6th attack. Very serious crimes, some charged with violent crimes. We know 5 people died as a result of the rioting that day. So it was a very serious day. Certainly, you have heard Republicans over the past year say there were many people who were at that event who did not go inside the Capitol, who were just there to protest, who went to this rally, maybe hung out, few hundred yards away from the Capitol building, but didn't go inside and cause any destruction, but certainly, we saw the images of that day and what it was like inside, and, the violence that incurred that day, and certainly the criminal charges that have come as a result of that.
Interesting how much changed in your perspective in 12 months, and then in just about 10, let's see, I'm trying to do math. I guess it's less,
10 months,
a little
10
bit
months,
less,
10
right,
months. It's
right, in just about 10 months, we're looking at midterms, and possibly a new group of controlling the House and the Senate. And you're there among the Republicans as they're discussing their priorities for the midterms. How would you describe their feelings? And what about the 2024 presidential race?
Well, I think they are feeling optimistic. Some members would say they're cautiously optimistic because they've been around politics enough to know that a lot can change in a year, right? If the midterm elections were held on February 4th, 2021, it's likely that Democratic candidates would have done very well given the mood of the country at that time. Midterm elections are still 10 months away. It remains to be seen, what things like inflation will look like, what the COVID situation will be like then. We saw a good jobs report from January come out today for the White House. And so if some of those things start to turn around, some of that national mood may start to change and things may not look as bleak for Democrats as they look today. And that's sort of the caution that some members have, right? They just know there's a lot of time between now and Election Day. That being said, overall, they're feeling very good, right? There is a 50-50 Senate, and they have very strong chances to win in battleground Senate races where they feel their candidates are, doing well. Democratic candidates may be outraising them a little bit, but Republicans certainly have plenty of money stashed away to help their candidates come general election time. And, in the House, there's just a few seats that they need to pick up, unlike 2010 where they needed to pick up many, many seats. So, you heard some Republicans saying, we're feeling good and we don't need a 2010-esque wave in order to take back control of Congress. Mm-hmm. We just need to do well enough in order to achieve our goals at this point in time. The 2024 election will come later, but they believe that some of the approval ratings and the fact that so many people in polling, about 2/3 of people in several recent polls have said the country's on the wrong track, give them optimism. But a couple Republicans said, we see a little bit of Democratic enthusiasm in pockets that we weren't seeing, in the 2010 races. And that gives us, a little bit of pause along with just the unknowns of what the political landscape will be when votes start being cast in late September, October, and November. Well, it does seem like we're living in a time warp, and we know that everything can change really quickly or can just continue to slug along. Adam Brewster, thank you. Thanks, Lana.